is such an incredible pleasure to introduce our donor speaker, Dr. Stephen Lockhart. Dr. Lockhart entered Washington University as a sophomore at the age of 16. He was a math major, and he was a member of the first class of Arthur Holly Compton Fellows. And I'd like to explain that, and he gave a great analogy about 30 minutes ago. If you are a tremendous football player, you get recruited to a Division I school with a full scholarship. If you are a scientist, a future scientist, you get recruited to Washington University as a math major. And so that's what he did. And we are Division I in math, I might add. So he was also a Rhodes Scholar, and he earned a master's degree in economics from Oxford. He has a doctorate in biostatistics, and he has a medical degree from Cornell University. He's the chief medical officer for the California Pacific Health System, which operates more than 20 hospitals in Northern California. He has other interests, and many of these are close to those of us that are environmentalists' heart. He promotes environmental education as a volunteer for Natural Bridge and a vice chair for the Natural Parks Conservation Association. He's been honored by the White House as a champion of change for his efforts to engage youth in environmental stewardship and conservation. In 2015, Arts and Sciences awarded him a Distinguished Alumni Award, and he's a member of the Arts and Sciences National Council. He provided to Washington University scholarship support in memory of his mother, WashU alumna Josephine Lockhart. Please welcome one of our most outstanding alumni, Dr. Stephen Lockhart.
Thank you, Dean Schall, and good evening, everyone. I'm happy to say that during all that time studying mathematics, I never once sustained a math injury. So, although there were times when it was touchy. But it's my great honor and privilege to be with you this evening. You know, my mother, whom you've heard referenced, and yes, we will talk some about my mother this evening, used to say, be bright, be brief, and be gone. So I can guarantee you that at least two of those things will happen, as our time is somewhat limited this evening. As I started to think about what to talk about, what kind of remarks to make this evening, the question occurred to me, why are we all here? Now, this is not some large existential or philosophical question. It's actually a very simple one, which is, why are we all here this evening? And although I know that there are probably as many answers to that question as there are people in the room, my guess would be that if we looked at the thread that went throughout those answers, that we probably would find that the common theme would be gratitude. Because gratitude is a human emotion that's been with us since the beginning of time. It's something for which, when one is offered something of great value and for which nothing is required in return, one has an innate sense of gratitude. So I'd like to share just a few things, a few stories about some of the things that I am grateful for. As a child, I was raised by my mother, a single parent, Josephine Lockhart, who had great intellect, drive, and an indomitable spirit. For any who knew her, you knew exactly what that meant. She and her siblings were fortunate enough to have received an incredible education. She was a professor of mathematics herself. She had received her second graduate degree from Washington University here, but we had few financial resources at the time. So it was made clear to me from an early age that I would, in fact, be attending college, although I would later learn that we had no idea exactly how that would happen. But in the interim, my days were filled with access to music, arts, literature, language, debate, and of course, a daily dose of mathematics. She worked diligently to make sure that I was prepared and up to the challenge of making the most of a college education. The question was, how could this happen? My mother worked hard, but did not earn enough, and of course, however many piggy banks I would put up on the shelf, that just really wasn't going to do it. Now, WashU was a lot less expensive at that time, but still, it was very much out of reach. However, due to the generosity of people whom I've never met and would never know, I was able to attend Washington University and study mathematics as an Arthur Holly Compton Fellow. So this is one of those things for which I am extremely grateful. My undergraduate experience was among the most joyful and impactful experiences of my life. And I not only had the privilege to benefit from a superior academic education in a nurturing and physically beautiful environment, but as one of the younger members of my class, I literally grew up here. I did so in a caring environment of friends, professors, coaches, and administrators, all of whom seemed to know who I was, to care who I was, and who were invested in my success. This could occasionally lead to a few tricky encounters, such as the one between myself and one of my math professors, Professor Bernstein. I remember in Brookings Quad, he came to me and commented. Now, this was a full professor of mathematics with a national and international reputation, that he had noticed during my time goofing off in the quad that my proficiency with Frisbee was probably going to soon exceed my proficiency with the material in his class. So, needless to say, I heeded his advice, his fatherly advice, buckled down, did well in his class, and of course had the good sense to then take my Frisbee throwing to the South 40 dorm area where I was far less visible. But this is just a small example of the love and support shown to me and indeed to all the students who attend the university. So it's no wonder that so many of us alumni now wish to reciprocate by showing our support for both the university and the students who attend. For this, I am extremely grateful. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the role Washington University plays, a very important role in helping us create and maintain a civil society. With the upcoming election in just a few days, we are reminded how divided our country is. And the campaign we have endured has at times been less than civil, referencing a civil society. Yet Washington University, for the past several elections, has tried to provide a platform for this civil discourse about issues by hosting presidential debates. As I watched the debate this year, always with pride, by the way, I wondered if it might not have been better to have the candidates simply leave the debate hall and stroll across the campus. That would give them an idea of what a true, open, tolerant, and respectful community looks like. For it was my experience, even attending during the 70s, right on the heels of the unrest of the civil rights movement and the Vietnam War, that we always worked hard to understand and learn from one another. Recently, I attended the 60th birthday, and for those who are students here, I want to point out that that is a young age. Right. Yeah. That tune 16 candles was originally written as 60 candles. Got later reduced due to budget constraints. But anyway, this friend of mine who had a 60th birthday, and he's a friend whom I met at Washington University as a freshman more than 40 years ago. At his party, and we flew from all over the country to join him. We were joined by other college friends, such as Tim Langdon, a white kid from the rural backwoods of North Carolina, Carrie Bernstein, a Jewish kid from New York, and of course the birthday boy, Jeff Ling, a Chinese-American kid from New Jersey. And it was Tim who observed that it was absolutely crazy that this motley ragtag crew should be friends at all, much less for 40 years. It made no sense whatsoever. And we all agreed that it was only because of the environment created at Washington University that we came to view our diversity as something that could enhance our relationships rather than divide us. And it was Tim who observed that maybe if more young people had the opportunity to have a Washington University type of experience, we would be far better off as a society. We all agreed. First time we agreed with Langdon, 40 years. But we all agreed to that. For the 40 years of friendship and the ability to listen to and understand each other, I am grateful. So how do we express our gratitude? If you are a student and a recipient of a scholarship, I recommend that you use all of your skills and talents to take advantage of the wonderful opportunities that Washington University provides. Use them not only to obtain a degree and further your career, but also to realize your potential as a person and as a productive member of our society. There is no greater way to repay those who have supported you. If you are someone who is a funder or a potential funder of scholarships, Please continue to invest in these young people. There can be no greater dividend, and it will pay off for decades to come. As I have also realized, being a donor has its own rewards. In my case, the scholarship is in honor of my mother, Josephine Lockhart. She is not only someone who raised me, whom I love dearly, and who prepared me for college and beyond, she also happens to have dedicated her own life and worked tirelessly as a teacher to prepare many more young people to be able to avail themselves of a four-year education, college education. This scholarship assures that her name and legacy will always be tied to her passion for educating young people at a place, Washington University, that she dearly loved. And as a son, there is no greater gift, and for this I am grateful. Thank you for your attention.